no judgment, just real talk. This is the Apology Accepted podcast. The views expressed on the Apology Accepted podcast are those of the host and guest and do not reflect the views of any affiliate organization or individual. The content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. For personal, legal, or emotional matters, please consult a qualified professional. By continuing to listen to this podcast, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Apology Accepted podcast. I am your host, Latisha Monique, and this week I want to talk about setting boundaries. Why? Because I used to be so poor at it. That's my truth. So, boundaries, is it important? Should we have them? How often do we use them? Are we consistent with our boundaries? Are we setting good boundaries? Are our boundaries healthy? Let's talk about all of that. But first, let's talk about the definition. What is boundaries? Because sometimes people may think they know, but really don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what Google said boundaries are. So, boundaries are the limits we set to protect our emotional, physical, and mental well being. They're how we teach others how to treat us. So, we set boundaries so we can teach others how to treat us. Interesting. Now, how to recognize when you need to set boundaries. Have you ever felt resentful or exhausted or even overwhelmed after saying yes to something? Like someone, I don't know, let me see. Um Everyone knows that you bake. Like it's not you it's not what you do as your job or your business, but you are good at this skill of baking. So your family member come and say, hey, can I need 50 cupcakes next weekend for, I don't know, little Josh birthday. And of course, in that moment, you just go, okay, sure, I'll do 50 cupcakes for you for next Saturday. After you said that yes, did you instantly feel overwhelmed in that answer? Like you instantly thought of, oh my gosh, you know what? Next week I am slammed with everything I have going on. Work, kids, school, performances, practice, just everything that you have. And not once did you think about this prior to saying yes. Now, I just gave the cupcake example. But it could be anything. It could be, hey, next week, can you watch Lil Tisha? And you like, oh yeah, sure, she can come over. But you instantly felt overwhelmed after saying, sure. That's a sign that a boundary is being crossed because you are now exposing yourself to all the yeses. And people see that and people understand that, and you will always be the go-to person for all of the things. Right or wrong? Let me know. Other signs include feeling like people are taking advantage of you. that goes back to what I was just mentioning, saying that people understand and pick up on how you always say, okay, yes, sure, I'll be happy to, gladly. You know, all of those things, every time someone asks you, put you at the front of everyone always asking. And normally in these cases, it stems from family members, maybe co-workers, depending on the setting of your work. But when you always say yes, people bet on your yes, and never once do they think you're gonna say no. So they can just call you up and be like, hey, hey, can you do, hey, I need your help on, and you are always saying, oh, okay, sure. Why? Because you really want to help, but you have not set that boundary for your time and what makes sense for your time. Meaning, when can you actually help? Do you really have the time and the capacity to help? We don't think about that when someone just call us, and you on the phone. Hello, hey girl, listen, I got this so and so, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And yeah, okay, yeah, well, I can do it. We do not take out a moment to say, hey, let me get back to you, and I'll let you know if I will be able to assist. Healthy boundaries, right? That would be a healthy answer instead of making an impulsive answer by saying, oh, okay, yeah. I used to do it all the time. I want you guys to think about a time recently when you felt drained or frustrated. What was happening in that moment? Were you even aware that you were having this feeling of unhealthy boundary commitment? Because that's a thing. Unhealthy boundary commitment. When you've answered so quickly and immediately after saying yes, you feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and in a lot of cases frustrated. And all of these feelings you feel towards yourself because you didn't give yourself the time to actually analyze, can you actually help at this time? So, steps to setting these boundaries. How do we even set healthy boundaries? How does that work? What do we do? Is it a solo step? Is it something that we, do with someone else? How to set boundaries. So, the first thing I'm going to say is identify your limits. What is your limit? You know what you can do and what you can't do in the time and manner in which you can do it. You know, if you already have a full plate, then chances are you got a full plate. It is nothing that you're going to be able to do about it, but you shouldn't add to that full plate, right? No, yes, maybe so. What are your non negotiables? Do you even have any non negotiables? Let me tell y'all something. This is so funny. I have a non negotiable, and my non negotiable is I do not answer FaceTime calls unless I already know that is how you're calling me. I do not. When I first seen an iPhone. My cousin had one years ago. This was, man, I don't know, oh 04, oh 03, I don't know, years ago. And that's when the iPhones first came out, and it had the big back on the phone, like the old flat screen TVs. You had a flat screen, and then in the back of the TV is this big old back piece. Well, the iPhones used to be like that. And then, of course, over time, they came up with creative ways of making it more sleek. Anyway, I used to be an Android lover. I love my Android. And then I started using Apple. But FaceTime became a thing. And I hated it. Like, I just, oh my gosh. I did not like FaceTime calling. I felt like that was so invasive. Like, why are you calling me on FaceTime? Because I never called anyone on FaceTime unless we've already discussed this is how we about to communicate. So I used to have people call me on FaceTime and I would not answer. And they would send me a text message saying, hey, what you doing? I just tried to call you. Okay. Well, call me. Don't FaceTime me. Like that, oh my gosh, that used to irk my nerve so bad. So that's a non negotiable for me. The only people that can FaceTime me whenever, however, whatever, is my children and my husband. And actually, to be honest, that's the only way my children actually call me. It's very rare that my kids call me regularly, just the phone call. It's definitely always a FaceTime call. So those four individuals and my husband are the only ones who can FaceTime me and I'm going to answer. Everybody else, it has to already be understood that this is how we communicate, right? So I have a sister from another mother. Now, it's already understood that she gonna probably FaceTime me, but I know this. And so the healthy boundary for me is that we already established we gonna kind of be invasive to each other sometimes. But that's our agreement. So now she's a add another person. Anywho, um, what are some of your non-negotiables? Do you even have any non-negotiables? That's something to think about. What drains you? Because whatever that is, that could be a non-negotiable. We just have to identify what that is for us and how that looked. I knew that FaceTiming was a non-negotiable for me because I used to get so frustrated when someone did it. And then the whole Facebook, what is it called? Is it Facebook calling? I'm just gonna say Facebook calling. If it's another name, oh well. When somebody calls me off of Facebook through the FaceTime, I do not answer that. What in the world? No, not me. But that's my non negotiable or an example of one of my non negotiables. Now, what are your non negotiables? And again, if you don't have any, here is the perfect time to identify what it could be. Another step to setting boundaries is communicate clearly. Oh my gosh, this is a big one because we as humans, sometimes we just assume that the receiver of whom we might be speaking to just automatically should know because of either their age or, why you don't know. Well, we have to communicate clearly. And what I mean by that is, let me see. Instead of saying, you're always interrupting me, we might need to say, um, I need time to finish my thought before you respond. See, that sounds different. Because me just saying, you always interrupting me. Now, for the receiver, that's like, I mean, okay. And then they keep interrupting you. But what you might think is, now that I said you always interrupted me, I am assuming that you know I want you to stop so I can finish my thought before you respond. Receivers don't always receive things the way we give it. So we have to be very clear when we communicate of what we want. You know, someone is always interrupting. Hey, look, I need time to finish my thought before you respond. Give me that moment. That's letting them know directly, hey, shush, and let me finish. um, because again, communication is, I am going to say, communication is one of the hardest things for individuals to understand. Why? Because we all communicate differently and we all receive things differently. So that makes it difficult for um, communication to be as clear as it can be. And the only way for it to be as clear as it can be is if you be very direct versus saying, well, I mean, you should have known. Um, I'm going to use my daughter as an example. You know, I said to her, my youngest daughter, I was like, oh, your room look a mess. In my mind, that meant I'm telling you to clean up your room. Your room look a mess. Clean it up. But I didn't say clean it up. I just said your room look a mess. But in my mind, that meant clean it up. Well, the next day came and her room looked a mess again. And then the next day came and her room looked a mess again. And then the weekend came and her room looked a mess again. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, what? I said your room look a mess. But what I didn't say is, hey, clean up your room. Take the trash out of your room. Clean off your dresser. Hey, clear your bookshelf. Hey, sweep, vacuum, and mop your floor. Hey, clean your bathroom. Like I wasn't direct with what I wanted her to do. I just kind of threw it out there with the hopes that she caught it, and she didn't. Hey, your room look a mess. Again, I felt like she should have took that as mom saying, clean my room. But nope, she did not. And that's when I knew that my communication was not clear. So I had to fix it and go back and say exactly what I wanted her to do. So I had to make that communication clear so she understood what I wanted. And we have to do that. We fall short every time we assume that someone should know what we are saying versus just being as clear and direct as possible. Now, let's talk about the consequences with boundaries. And some might say, what? Boundaries have consequences? Absolutely. Boundaries absolutely have consequences if you do not follow through with the boundary. You have to understand that setting boundaries is healthy. So when boundaries are consistently being broken, you have to follow through with the consequences. If someone crosses a boundary, calmly remind them that, hey, look, you didn't cross. Now, I done told you. Nah. But kindly remind them and take action if necessary. Like for me, um, on my phone, I set my alarm. Well, I shouldn't say alarm. Yeah, it's an alarm. I set my phone to tell me at a certain time to shut down. It'll say bedtime. It'll go like doo doo doo, and then it'll pop up on my phone bedtime, and then this thing will come up and it say it is not. It is now time to wind down. But thank you for the reminder. I love when my phone do that. By the way. But anyway, so when my phone does that, I don't receive any more text messages unless I literally have my phone in my hand. If I don't have my phone in my hand, then I don't see any text messages and I don't hear my phone ring because it automatically goes on silent. Why? Because my phone just told me it was bedtime. So I love that. I do love that. So an example is I used to tell people at a certain time, I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to, I ain't taking calls after this time, blah, blah, blah. Well, my phone used to ring and ding all times of the night. So that would, me putting this alarm on my phone was me setting a boundary for me, because once my phone tell me it's bedtime, I no longer hear my phone unless I have it in my hand. So if someone keep texting late night, you might want to mute their notifications, because you can do that. Well, I went to the extreme of everybody, but you can mute individuals, especially group text messages. Oh my gosh. Now, I understand group text messaging. I'm involved in a lot of group text messaging. But I, I also understand if I get a question from someone and I'm in a group, that I can respond and answer to that person directly versus going back and forth, and everybody answering, and now your phone going off seconds after seconds after seconds. Yeah, mute. We got to start utilizing these great technology gadgets, features that we have on our phone. Now, of course, I got my daughter to help me do mine, but I'm just saying, we got to utilize them, because me having my phone shut down at a certain time is absolutely wonderful to me. The only people that can get through past the time that my phone shut down is my children and my husband. Those are the only people that can get through. Why? Because they are in my emergency contacts. Did you know those that are in your emergency contacts can kind of get through anything? Yes. But anyway, so they are the only people on my emergency contacts, so they can get through. So we have to be consistent, and we have to follow through with our consequences, because here's the thing: when you don't follow through with your own boundaries, then that gives other people the real green light to take advantage of that. And our culture, We are taught to, respect our elders and our parents and so on and so forth. Well, all of that is great. But again, as an adult, you have to set boundaries. And if people are triggers, then you have to set a healthy boundary in when you can deal and when you can't deal. Because your peace of mind is most important. And that's one thing we have to understand. And that's not being disrespectful at all. Being disrespectful is continuing to allow yourself to have these frustrations, always feeling overwhelmed, and always being in this agitated maybe state because of all of the things that you have to do or all of the things that you said yes to. Now you're trying to complete all of your yeses and you're not even able to really fulfill what's on your plate. So we have to be very, very careful how we set these boundaries. Setting boundaries is not a bad thing. It is healthy for you as individuals. And I had to learn the hard way because, again, like I stated in the beginning, I used to have a hard time with setting boundaries. You know, I it was just hard. Not that I couldn't say no. I haven't had a hard time saying no. It's just that caught off guard question where I never took the time to think about all of what I had to do before answering the question. It's normal to feel guilty when you start saying no. But what you have to do is remind yourself that you can't pour from an empty cup because you're going to get nothing. Not everyone will respect your boundaries right away. If you have not experienced that now, I am here to tell you. Not everyone will respect your boundaries right away. But stay firm and consistent in your boundaries because you have set these boundaries for a reason. They are here to help you to be able to fulfill and live this peaceful as possible life. Because what we don't want to do is live every day just saying yes to everything that someone asks us to do or everything that come across our desk, or you just don't want to be that person always feeling overwhelmed every day, all day. Again, not everyone will respect your boundaries. They're, they're just not. Why? Because they're used to the yes. They used to the okay. But stay firm and stay consistent in whatever it is that you come up with or what you have already came up with to say maybe or say no. I can't this time. I do not have the time. You don't even have to explain it because no is a complete sentence. But see, we show grace to people and we want to be polite and things like that. So we might say no because, and we give the spiel of why we can't. But even if you just said no, that is okay too. I have a challenge for you guys this week. This week, I want you to identify one area in your life where you need a boundary. Where do you need a boundary at most? Is it at work? Because everyone keep throwing stuff on your desk saying, hey, do this, do this, do that, do this, what, blah, blah. Is it in your personal life? Because you are the favorite auntie in the whole wide world or something, and all 180 nieces and nephew always call you. Um, where is that one area where you need to set a boundary? I challenge you to identify that area and practice saying no or communicating your needs. Here's a simple way to start setting healthy boundaries. All right. Um, Someone asks you, can you do something? Or do you want to participate in something? Whatever. You don't want to. Here's what you can say: I appreciate the offer, but I'm unable to take that on right now. Healthy. You said no without saying no, making it, maybe sound a little rude. You just said, hey, at this time, I'm unable to take that on right now. Boom. The end, bottom line. The receiver should respect it. And even if they don't, you said your piece because that's your boundary. So we're we're not responsible for how someone feel once we've said our piece and what's going to help us. We only responsible for setting our healthy boundaries. That's what we are responsible for. um I am eager to know how many of my listeners journal. I journal. Do y'all journal? Wherever y'all listening at, hit the like button. Leave a comment. Let me know. Do you journal? Because I would if you do. For those who do, for those who don't, it's okay. You can think about it in your head. But for those who do journal, I want you to write about a time when you wished you had set a boundary. How would you handle it differently now? How would you handle that boundary that you wish you would have set before? How would you handle it now after listening to the Apology Accepted podcast? Remember, setting boundaries is an act of self love and empowerment. You deserve to protect your peace. Boundaries is not about shutting people out, it's about creating a space for healthy relationships. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who might need it, and let me know how your boundary setting journey is going. Message me, DM me, email me. For those who have my phone number, call me. Until next time, you guys, take care of yourself and keep setting those boundaries. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Apology Accepted podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked some growth for you. Be sure to subscribe and share with others who might need this reminder too. Until next time, you all, remember, healing starts with a simple apology. Take care.